Look, we can have debates all day long around policies, and we can have conversations about what the tax bracket should be and what the education system in this country. But that's not the conversation that's happening here. And it used to be that we could collectively, as a country, say, if you're calling for this kind of political violence, that's unacceptable. And that is going
Mm.
to put our democracy in peril. And that's what not just John Kelly, but so many former senior staffers of Donald Trump are coming out and saying that this is a crisis. And the Harris campaign and the Democrats are trying to point to it and share it with as many voters as possible. But it's, as you said, it doesn't seem to be moving the needle tremendously. That's not going to stop anyone from continuing to put that out there, because we do know that democracy is a key issue for voters.
Donald Trump continues to make the running in the final days of the campaign. This morning's poll in the Wall Street Journal gives him a 2-point lead nationally, 40 over Kamala Harris. That's still within the margin of error, of course, but in reality, Harris needs to win the popular vote by a comfortable margin to be sure of a majority in the Electoral College. Another poll in the Financial Times shows Trump overtaking Harris on who could best handle the economy. Let's check in with both camps. First, Nikki Beaver, political director of the National Federation of Republican Women, based in Washington, D.C. Good afternoon to you. Let me start with this. Donald Trump's longest-serving White House chief of staff, I think a highly respected general in his own right, John Kelly, says he's a fascist. Will that not harm him among moderate and independent voters?
No, I don't think so. Many people that oppose Donald Trump say things like that. It's not true. And, you know, the base knows that, and they are out working hard to convince independent voters. They've called him Hitler. They've called him fascist. They've called him every name under the sun, and it has not slowed him down at all. We're winning in the polls. We're winning so far in early voting. So, no, I don't think it'll have an effect at all.
Now, what's been a big story over here, not so big in America, is that Team Trump is making a bit of a fuss over British Labour Party staffers campaigning for Kamala Harris. Now, I know the contest is close, but really 100 sort of left-wing Brits making a difference? Surely not.
They have been in North Carolina, and whether they're making a difference or not, I'm not sure, but you know, that feels a lot like foreign interference, in my opinion. And while, you know, I don't think there's anything legal wrong with that. Yeah, we're not excited about it, but it is what it is. I don't think it's
Let me give you some unpaid advice. Team Trump should maybe ask for more to come over. That would probably ensure his victory.
Maybe so, yeah.
Do you detect in this campaign, as you know, we've only a few days to go, it's fast approaching November the 5th, do you detect that there are still a chunk of voters minds in the final days, or do you think it's now all down to who's best at getting the vote out?
You know, we've heard between 4 and 11% are still undecided voters. In this election, that's mind-blowing to me. I think it's definitely a get out the vote effort at this point. We've seen record numbers in early voting, and I think we're going to have record numbers who vote. So if all the Republicans and all the Trump people get out and vote, we will win in a landslide. But we have to do our part and make sure they're getting out to vote, which we are. I am on location right now. We are in Georgia. The National Federation of Republican Women have been in all the battleground states, and that is our goal, is to get out the vote.
And how does Georgia, of course, being one of the swing states, Mr. Trump lost it in 2016, but he lost it in 2020, narrowly both times. How's it looking in Georgia? Is that going into the red camp?
It sure feels like it and looks like it to me. We were fortunate enough to be at the Trump rally last night with over 13,000 people in the arena. The energy was out of this world. We are, everywhere we go, we're wearing our Republican shirts, and we get all kinds of praise and thank you. And I feel really, really good about it. The Georgia GOP here has been working on lawsuits to make sure the election is going to go off legally and without a hitch. And I feel very confident. It feels much, much bigger than 2020 or 2016.
Okay, well, only a few days ago did we find out. Nikki Beaver, thank you for joining us there from the National Federation of Republican Women. Let's turn now to the Democrats and speak to Nicole Brener-Schmitz, a Democrat commentator and strategist. Nicole, let me ask you this. Is Team Harris starting to worry? Because it certainly seems that way in the pro-Democrat commentariat in the media.
I mean, look, it's the Democrats' MO to always make sure that they're putting all their cautions out and they're worrying. The Harris team is doing what they need to be doing. She is going to the swing states. She is on a media blitz. She is talking to people where they are, not just on the standard NBC, ABC, CBS, but getting on podcasts, getting on radio that folks are listening to and communicating. But much like what Nikki just said, the Democrats, too, very focused on GOTV now. This is really the time to make sure that everybody who's in your camp is getting out, making sure that in states where they can early vote, they're doing so. They're mailing their ballot in. They are going to vote on election day, that they have a plan for that. So this is really a big, big GOTV effort at this point.
I understand that there's a lot of early voting. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important aspect of this democracy because things happen on election day, right? Your kid gets sick, you have to stay at a meeting too late, and all polls and polling locations are not open the same amount of hours. So the more that we can get folks who have made their decision about who they're going to support in this campaign to go get that vote in early, the better it is.
Now, Harris, yesterday, I think it was last night, called Trump a fascist. She was echoing what John Kelly, his former chief of staff, had said too. I mean, in normal times, if someone with the stature of John Kelly, a military man, chief of staff, longest running for Mr. Trump, had called that of one of the two major candidates, it would be a crisis in the campaign. It could even change the outcome. It's an incredible claim to make, especially if it's true. And yet it doesn't seem to move the dial. Why is that?
I mean, we have seen for a long time now, since 2016, that there is a very, very hard base in the Republican Party that is just for Trump, almost no matter what is said or done. I mean, what John Kelly is calling out is Trump's own rhetoric in the past few weeks, too, calling Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff the enemy within. I mean, look, we can have debates all day long around policies, and we can have conversations about what the tax bracket should be and what the education system in this country. But that's not the conversation that's happening here. And it used to be that we could collectively, as a country, say, if you're calling for this kind of political violence, that's unacceptable. And that is going to put our democracy in peril. And that's what not just John Kelly, but so many former senior staffers of Donald Trump are coming out and saying that this is a crisis. And the Harris campaign and the Democrats are trying to point to it and share it with as many voters as possible. But it's, as you said, it doesn't seem to be moving the needle tremendously. That's not going to stop anyone from continuing to put that out there, because we do know that democracy is a key issue for voters. As much as we talk about the economy, which is incredibly important, reproductive rights for women, incredibly important. Democracy itself is an issue that Americans care about and are paying attention to. So we need to be communicating what Trump, in his own words, is saying, and how all these people who were senior staff who worked for him are warning the American public about what 4 more years might look like.
Well, if it's another closer result, the biggest test for American democracy could be about to come this side of Christmas or early in the new year. Let me finish with this. Harris, I think, is generally accepted. She's turned out to be a better candidate and campaigner than many thought she would be. But maybe not good enough, because it doesn't seem that independents and moderate Republicans, particularly moderate Republican women who can be repelled by Mr. Trump, they just don't seem to be embracing her. Why?
Well, we do see the biggest gender gap that we've ever seen. I would say that there are a lot of those moderate women that are coming across, and we're seeing these numbers in a big way. Where we're having a little more struggle, I would say, is a blue collar white man. We're not having the same sort of numbers that we saw with Joe Biden or even back with Barack Obama.
Because he was Scranton Joe. He appealed to blue-collar voters.
Right. And so that's a place. So I think this election itself, but after this election, both parties are going to be looking at who turned out for them and who didn't. I think Republicans are going to be looking hard at that gender gap, and I think Democrats are going to be looking hard at what are we not communicating, since we are a party that is supporting workers' rights, supporting pension plans, supporting, you know, your value in the workplace, supporting these tax breaks for a lower income middle class. What are we not communicating that's getting them to support these policies? But we absolutely are having a tremendous turnout and support from women across so many different races and economic classes, a lot because the economy is very important to them and they are the ones running the checkbook and making sure that their families have what they need. And they know that reproductive rights is inextricably linked to that. And Americans do not want freedoms taken away from them. And that's what they've seen. And Donald Trump has proclaimed victory, calling it what he did. So he's owning that. And that's turning a lot of women away from supporting him.
Nicole Brener-Schmitz, Democrat strategist, thank you for joining me on Times Radio.